Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome back to Saturday Hodgepodge. Can't remember what number this one is. I'll look it up before I post the video. So it's pretty early in the morning. It's about 6:20, 6:30 Saturday morning here, our time. And I realized I just posted a tag video last night. And it's kind of, I guess, bad booktube form to post too many videos too close together, but heck, there are really no rules anymore. I can't remember how many days in a row I've posted a video. This will probably be the last one until maybe Tuesday of next week. My online teaching has to come online, and I'm making videos of lectures and activities to post for my students, and so I'll be spending some time doing that, and so I'll be making a lot of videos in that area over the next 2 or 3 weeks to try to get, hey Zelda, to try to get everything ready for that, and to start working in that way. So this will probably be the last video for at least a few days. I'll give you a break. Health-wise, here where I live in Texas, there are, I believe, 4 cases of COVID-19 in the county where I live. The county where my daughter lives, and she lives in the Austin area of Texas. In the county where my daughter lives, they just confirmed while she was here, I'll talk about that in a minute, that they were up to 8 cases, which is disturbing. One of the things that I wonder, and that I'm trying to think of as a positive, is not that we're seeing more cases here in the United States, but that we're seeing more confirmed cases here in the United States because we're testing more. We are woefully behind on testing. And so part of me is trying to convince myself that the massive increase in the number of cases we have in the United States is a result of better testing. And I've been saying for some time that the testing is how we know. That if we don't have better testing, we're not going to know more. But having said that, we still haven't tested nearly enough cases here in the United States. The health of my family is very good. To get to, let's see, reading stuff really quickly. I saw Sean's Friday wrap-up, Sean the Book Maniac's Friday reads. I saw Greg at supposedly Fun's Friday reads video yesterday, and both of them said they were having a hard time concentrating and reading. And then I saw on Steve Donahue's Friday check-in that a number of people he had been in contact with were having the same problem. And, I'm having that problem. There are lots of read-alongs going on this month. One is March of the Mammoths, where I think last week I kind of brazenly said, hey, you might try a big collection of short stories next time for your March of the Mammoths. And since then I've read, I think, exactly 2. I am definitely, I think, in a reading slump here. So my Mammoth has more than 1,200 pages, and I'm still not on page 400, and it is, let's see, it is March the 21st. It gives me 10 days to read 800 pages of short stories. That is not going to happen. I am going to try to get back to those stories and read some more with a goal maybe of getting to page 500 by the end of the month, but we'll see. It's been very hard for me to concentrate on reading. It's just that every time I sit down to read, I'll read a few pages, and then I'll check my phone, I'll check Twitter, I'll check the sites where I'm tracking information about the virus, and then, it breaks my concentration and I stop reading. I did find kind of a solution on Thursday. I decided, to stop trying to force myself to read the Trevor short stories, as lovely and as great as they are, and to pick up something, that was maybe a little bit more pacey. And so I decided, Elmore Leonard might might work better, and so I picked up my copy of Kill Shot by Elmore Leonard, which I'm going to count, which is a part of the, March Mystery Madness. And I read, I think, the first 70 pages really quickly. I've slowed down since then, but it is still something I could pick up and fall into, because Elmore Leonard is awesome. If you didn't know, I can pick up and fall into relatively easily, and that seemed to help in terms of my reading. I am still planning on rereading Morrison's Song of Solomon, starting next week when I get a chance as a part of the Toni Morrison year-long read-along, where we're reading each of her works of fiction in the order in which they were published. Song of Solomon's a fairly long book, but I'm going to give that a shot starting next week as soon as I finish Elmore Leonard's Kill Shot. Also, I am still doing the short story project. My plan is to do the video about A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner, which I believe, if I remember, is this month's story. I should have that up on the 28th, which would be next Saturday. So I'll probably just do 2 videos next Saturday, the Hodgepodge video and the short story video, and get that up next week. Anyway, those are kind of my reading plans. I don't have a whole lot of other stuff to talk about here, but I did want to just talk about 2 things related to, COVID-19 and what it's doing to world societies, not just the United States, obviously, but around the world. There are 2 things I wanted to point out to you, and then both of them have to do with kindness and grace. And I'm not always the best exemplar of either one of those 2 things, but let me just encourage you to show kindness to the people you do encounter who are working in shops and grocery stores and places like that. In this kind of global pandemic, these people really are frontline workers. And I went to the grocery store yesterday. No, 2 days ago. I went to the grocery store to see if I could get some supplies for my daughter, who had come home from college briefly, so that we could see her before going back to her kind of self-isolation with her. Well, she has a few friends in the Austin area, but she's being very careful, she assures me. By the way, off on a tangent, and I realize this is really rambly, but when my daughter's college was essentially canceled, they're going to online classes starting Monday. My first reaction was to bring her home, to let her be here. But at the time when those classes canceled, there were no cases where she was, and there were cases where we are. And so I thought, well, that would be silly to bring her from a place with no cases to places where there are cases, however remote or however well we practiced self-isolation and social distancing. I didn't want to do that. But we did want to see her, so after, about 12 days of her not being ill and us not being ill, we scheduled for her to come home, which she did for a couple of days. And while she was, the day she left to come home, we learned, I think while she was actually on the drive, that there were 4 cases in her county, which equaled our county. And then she came home, and it was lovely to see her. It was very distracting. We did a lot of good family stuff. We played games. We ate meals. Sometimes we just all napped in the same room. Didn't really matter, but it was really lovely. And then, she had to go back, and so she is gone now. And I will tell you that adds an extra layer of worry. I know there are a lot of people on BookTube with very serious health concerns. I'm not trying to in any way suggest that my worries are greater or even equal to the worries of lots of people here. But it is a really uncomfortable time for me. I have parents who are in their late 70s who live about 150 miles away. I have a daughter who's in her early 20s and her fiance who live about 200 miles away. And then I have my wife who is in a high-risk group because of damage done to her lung from radiation for breast cancer. And so I do find myself fretting and worrying about people over whom I have no control. So, I guess it's possible that we did the wrong thing by bringing my daughter home for a little while and then sending her back. But it was one of those things as a parent. I had to see her and know that she was healthy, and we took every precaution we possibly could, and she assures me she is. So anyway, that was a tangent. Back to my point. When you go to the grocery store or you go someplace to go shopping, remember that those people are probably working really long shifts. Like I said, I talked to a former student of mine who was working at the checkout at the grocery store, and he said he was working on average 12-hour shifts. Please be kind to those people. It's whatever shortages exist at the store are not the fault of the people who work at the store. Whatever the line situation is or the wait to get in is not the fault of the people who work at the store. It's actually the fault of the people who are going to the store and hoarding supplies. And let me just point out, as far as I know, in most of the developed countries of the world that are affected by this, there really isn't a food shortage. There really isn't a shortage of paper products. The shortage is being created by people hoarding those things, by going and buying large supplies when they don't need them, and just kind of collecting them. And they are actually creating the problem. So please be kind to the people who are working those places. I think that's where I started off. I told you this would be rambling. And the second thing I want to talk about is to show a little grace to your fellow booktubers out there. So, and I'm not going to talk very much about this because I promise you I'm not passionate really or angry about it either way. You know, one of the things I would say is that in terms of the COVID pandemic and its impact on people psychologically, is that it kind of impacts everybody differently. Some people have gotten really into reading about plagues and epidemics, and they think this is a great time for dystopian fiction, and that's what they do. That's how they cope. That's great. If that's how you cope, then that's what you should do. Just as like with me, I really am trying to avoid that kind of thing and those kind of things in terms of entertainment, but that's me. So when you see people and these are people, you know, in our corner of BookTube who we probably trust, who are posting videos, you know, the coronavirus tag, or, you know, reading for a pandemic, or, you know, a reading list for self-isolation, and they're posting those videos, you know, just understand that that's their way of coping with it. By talking about it, by confronting it kind of head on. Maybe their way of coping with it is by finding humor in it. That's what they do. And if you don't like it, well, you don't have to like it. Don't click on the videos. You know, just don't watch their videos. That's the solution. You know, I don't think the solution is necessarily to go on and call people out specifically. If you want to go on and say it's in bad taste, if you want to go on and say you don't like it, that's your video. Do what you want to, but let's show each other a little grace and realize that everybody copes with these things differently. And if somebody has a video up that the topic of which you don't like, then, you know, don't click on it. And if you want to say something about it because you think it's in bad taste, well, that's okay too. But let's in some ways try to be a little bit more understanding of the fact that everybody deals with this differently, and just be accepting of that. Anyway, there you go. I think that's my rambly Saturday hodgepodge for this week. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.